Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel again. Here betomoedano with another video. And today's video we are going to learn how to add Firebase Authentication to our application. And in a previous video we did this beautiful login screen using React and Tailwind CSS. And today we are going to learn how to integrate Firebase Authentication. And here I have the demo of what we are going to be building today. As you can see, if I put here my email that I have here in my console of Firebase, I'm going to copy it, paste it here, and if I put my password down here, password, and I hit sign in, we can see that I got into the application and we have this home screen that I did. And if I reload the app, I stayed logged in, and we can see if I log out now and reload the app, we don't get to the home screen. And if you pay attention guys, when we are reloading the application, we have this message that says loading. And in what we are doing when we are loading, we are just checking in the backend or in our Firebase base, in our Firebase authentication, we are checking if we have a user logged in, okay? And in this case, we don't have anything, and we have this register screen. So if you want to learn how to create this UI, you can check out my video tutorial login with React and Tailwind CSS. I'm gonna leave the link in the description below, or you can just go to my channel and search for this video. Okay, so basically that's what we are gonna be building today, guys. So let's begin. Alright guys, so as you already know, all the resources for this video are going to be in my platform Code with Beto. So I'm going to leave the link in the description as well. And you can go here to my platform and hit projects, and you'll find this project login with Tailwind. You can just click on this one, and if you scroll down, you will find the dependencies that we are using for this project, and as well as the links for the GitHub, and if you want to download the code as well. Okay, now let's start. We're going to start by creating our project. I already have my project, so I'm just going to install my dependencies, running the command npm install. Okay, now we wait, and after that's ready, we can just open this project in Visual Studio Code. Nice. Now it's already open, so I'm going to run the command npm start just to check that everything is working. And right there, our development server, it's open. And as you can see here in my localhost 3000, we get this login screen. And that's pretty much what we have right now, only this view of this welcome back screen. And now that we have our project running, the first thing that I want to do is to start my project in my Firebase console. So I'm going to go here to Chrome, and I'm going to go to Firebase, okay? You are going to need to create an account if you don't have one already. You can just sign up, and after you sign up, you're going to get this console view of the Firebase, and you can just click Add Project. And then you're gonna get this view. Here you can set the name for your application. I'm just gonna call it tutorial this time, and hit continue. You're gonna get this question next. You can enable Google Analytics if you want, but we are not gonna do that for now. We are just go ahead and create project. And now we wait until the project is ready. In the meantime, guys, I want to tell you that we are going to be using a specific Firebase version. If you go to Code with Beto and go to Firebase, you can find this version that is Firebase 9.6.7. And this version is special because if you use the latest version of Firebase, you're gonna get a lot of problems. I don't know why, but Personally, I have been getting a lot of trouble with the latest version of Firebase, so that's why I like to use this version. So you can just go here and copy it. I'm gonna copy it, and now I'm gonna go back to my Firebase console, and we can see that our project is ready. We can hit continue now, and we are gonna go to this screen now, and here we can enable whatever we want for this project. But first, let's go here to project settings, and here we can see all the settings for this project that we just create. And as well, we can scroll down and we can connect or find whatever we need to connect our application. Okay, so I'm gonna hit here on web, and now we need to register our application. We need to put another name. I'm going to put tutorial as well and register application. We wait a little bit, and here we have the code that we need to connect to this backend, to our Firebase console. You have to be careful with these guys. You don't want to show these API keys and all this secret stuff, because if someone gets these keys, they can use your Firebase account to do whatever they want, and you will have to pay for that. Okay, so be careful with these keys. I'm going to delete this project, of course, after we finish to connect it. So just be careful. Now I'm going to install my Firebase version. As you can see, it's a Firebase 9.6.7. And after we install Firebase, we can go ahead and create a file that it's going to work as a configuration for our backend. You can call it whatever you want. I'm just gonna call it fire.js. And here I'm going to paste my configuration that I just copied from my console, okay? And you can see here that we have a lot of stuff right now, but we are gonna need to add some things to enable our authentication, okay? So now, after we copy all this, we can just go ahead and scroll all the way down and hit continue to console. Now we are in our console, and here we can enable whatever service that we want. In this case, we are gonna work with authentication, so that's why I'm going to click here. I'm going to click here in authentication app, and I'm going to hit get started. Get started. If that's the first time you are using authentication, you're gonna get this screen. If you already have it enabled, you're going to get this screen, okay? And here you can do whatever you want. You can enable Firebase database, real-time database, storage, hosting, Google Functions, etc. Okay. Now we need authentication. So we press authentication. We set here the sign-in method, and we can choose whatever we want to authenticate our users. I'm going to go easy this time with email and password. And now I hit enable here and save. Of course, you can enable email link if you want. We are gonna just do the email and password right now. After we enable this email and password, that's pretty much all we need to do here in our console. Now all the work that we need to do is in our application. Okay, so I'm going to delete now this project because you already have seen already all my keys. So if you want to learn how to delete a project, you just have to go to settings as well. And if you scroll all the way down, you will find this button that says delete project. You have to check all these check boxes. And after that, you hit delete project. Okay, so if you didn't know, you already know. Perfect. So now I'm gonna go to my real project, the one that you don't have the keys, authentication, and you can see here that I already have this user, but you won't see anything until we add our first user, okay? And now I'm gonna go ahead and continue with my application. So I'm gonna go back here to my localhost 3000, and Here in Visual Studio, I'm going to make some changes to our Fire file. First of all, we are going to need to initialize or export our authentication configuration from here, okay? So we already have our app initialized, as you can see here. It's already initialized, but we don't need this app, so I'm going to delete it like that. And down here, I'm going to say const auth, but first I need to import it. I want to delete all these comments just to see, to have a better view. I'm going to say import get auth from Firebase auth. Okay, so let's say from Firebase auth, just like that. Perfect. So now we have our function from Firebase, and we just need to export this authentication to be able to use it in our screens of our application and wherever we want to have access to the authentication in our application. Okay, so we can say export const auth get auth. That is the method that we just imported. Perfect. So now I can hit save, and that's pretty much all we need to do in our Fire configuration file. Perfect. So now we can start working in our React application. The first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to go here to my source folder, and I'm going to create another folder called auth. And inside this folder, I'm going to create my files or my views that I'm going to have for my authentication. I'm going to go ahead and create another folder for my pages. And inside these pages, I'm going to have, well, okay, so you can have your home screen or your dashboard screen, whatever you want. I'm going to say for now just home.js like that. And inside of home, I'm just going to have for now just a little text that says this is the home screen. Okay, so we export default home and open curly braces, and for now we are just going to return a simple div that says this is the home screen. All right, and as you already know, we have Tailwind in this project, so I can say here text 5XL, and I can add more styles like text bold, for example. Font bold, yeah. And lastly, I can say text center, just that way we can see the text in the middle of the screen. Okay, and that's all. I hit save, and now I'm going to close this home file, and I'm gonna go ahead and inside of my auth folder, I'm going to create my login screen and my register screen. Okay, so here I'm gonna say new file, and I'm going to have my login.js. And now that I'm here, I'm going to create as well my register.js. Perfect. Now, this is our login, the one that we have already. So I can just go to my app and copy all this basically and paste it here in my login screen. And just basically change my form import, adding another dot because we are inside of our auth folder, so we need to go out one more level. And I'm going to change, instead of app, we are going to have login, just like that. Okay, hit save, and now I go to my application, and I can delete all these now, and delete this import as well. And inside this app, I'm going to say login for now. Okay, and if I hit save now, we should see our login screen without changes. And I'm gonna go here and I'm going to reload, and it's not working because I haven't started my development server. So I'm going to run here in my terminal npm start, and let's reload our application, and it's working. So it means that we are doing good. Okay, so now we can go ahead and start working here in our login screen. I'm gonna copy all this form to create my register screen, because the register screen is the screen that we need to access first to create an account, right? So I'm just gonna copy this and go to my register and paste it. And as we did in our app, we are gonna change now form for register. And that's all, because we are exporting default here in one line. So perfect. Now we can just go ahead and change, instead of welcome back, we can say register, just to know that we are in the register form. And if I hit save now, I'm gonna go now to my app.js, and instead of rendering my login, I'm gonna render my register component that we just did. And if I hit save now, we can see that we got our form without the blur here in our application. Okay, so now that way we know that we are on the register screen. Perfect. And I think that's pretty much all we need to start working with our authentication. The first thing that I want to do, guys, is like a function to keep track of the authentication state of the user. What I mean by that is that we are gonna check every time that the application loads if we have a user logged in or not. Okay, so for that we are gonna use a method from Firebase Authentication, and this method is gonna help us to check every time that the app loads if we have a user or not. Okay, so I'm gonna import. I'm gonna start by importing all as React from React, because we are gonna use hooks. We are gonna need React, and inside my application I'm going to have my first variable that is gonna be my user. So I'm gonna say user set user equal to react.useState, and the value for this is going to be null at the beginning, so we're just gonna leave it like that for now. And then I'm gonna say const, and in this variable we are going to storage the auth state. So we can say auth state dot comma set auth state equal to react.useState, like that. And we are going to start this at null as well, and I can put null up here just to be clear, and that way we know that at the beginning always we're never going to have a user and we're never going to have an auth state. All right, so now I'm going to import my method from Firebase and my configuration for my authentication. So I'm gonna say auth, and I'm going to import it from my Fire config file. I'm gonna say from Fire. Okay, make sure that you put the right file direction. Now I'm going to import the method from Firebase that we are gonna need to check if the authentication changes. Okay, and this method, it's going to be import from Firebase /auth, like that. And this method is going to be called onAuth state change. There we have it, onAuth state change. So this method is going to help us. It's going to help us to check if we have a user every time that this app loads, right? That way we know if we should send the user to the login screen, for example, or if we should send the user to the home screen. So for that, we are gonna need a use effect from React. So I'm gonna say react.useEffect. And the first thing that we are gonna check when we when we load this application is to check if what is the auth state, right? So we can say here inside this use effect the following: const You can call it whatever you want. I'm gonna say unsubscribe auth equal. This is gonna be an arrow function, okay? So I'm gonna say on auth state change, that is the on auth state change that we just imported from Firebase. And this takes the authentication configuration that we have from our file. And here we're gonna do our arrow function that is gonna be async because we're gonna await for a response. And you can call this function whatever you want. I'm just gonna say authenticated user equal to arrow function. And now here we can check if we have an authenticated user, that is the name of this function. It means that we can set the user, right? And we can set the out state. So I'm gonna set the out state to be home because we want to take the user to home because it's already signed in. So we say home, and we are gonna set the user as well. So I'm gonna say set user, and I'm going to pass the authenticated user dot email. You can access whatever data you want from the user. As you can see here, you can check the email, the phone number, etc. I'm just gonna put the email for now, but of course you can put whatever you want, okay? So I'm gonna say email, I'm gonna close these parentheses, and in the case that we don't have anything, we are gonna set the user and set our out state as well. Our user is gonna be null because sometimes when the user changes, suppose that we logged out the user, right? If we don't set the user to null, we are gonna still have the user stored in the user state variable. So that's why we want to set the user to null. Make sure you do this. And we need to set the out state to login, for example, or to register. So I'm gonna say out state equal to login. This means that we're gonna take the user to the login screen whenever the user is logged out. And I'm gonna pass the user as a dependency for this use effect. That way, whenever the user changes, we are gonna run this use effect again, and we are going to change if the user is still logged in or not. Now we need to return this function just to make sure that it's gonna run every time the component renders. So we just can say return unsubscribe auth, and that's it for this use state, guys. Right? Perfect. So now I can hit save here, and we can present the screens depending on the out state. So down here before our return, we can say if out state is equal to null, which means that we don't have anything, we don't have a user, we don't have an out state, we can say that we are loading the screen. So I'm gonna just put a div with a loading, and I'm gonna quickly add a class name from Tailwind CSS, and I'm gonna say font bold and text center. And I'm gonna say text 5XL just to make sure that we can see the loading. And right there on the right side, we can see that we got this loading super quickly. I'm gonna reload here again just to check that we can see the loading message up there. And in the case that the out state, I can just actually copy this line and paste it 3 times because we are gonna have 3 options. The first, it's gonna be in the case of the out state, it's equal to login, or in the case of the out state, it's equal to home. So I'm gonna say here, register and home as well. I'm gonna change this for now before I add home. And in the case of login, we want to render the login screen. And in the case of register, we want to render the register component. I'm gonna say register. And lastly, we want to take the user to the home screen in the case we have a user. So instead of checking for an out state, I can just check for a user in the last if. So I'm going to say if user, this means that user is different than null. If you remember, it's null at the beginning. So if the user is equal to null, it's not equal to null, we have something. We want to take the user to the home screen. So I'm going to say here, just return home screen. Home, my component home, that is inside my pages folder. Okay, I'm gonna go to my app and I'm gonna say home, and I'm gonna close this component like that. And I just need to import this component. So I'm gonna go up here, and right here after register, I'm going to say import home from pages home. Perfect. So now I don't get that warning. And if I hit save, we can see that we are getting the login screen, because now the out state it's login because we don't have any user, we don't have nothing. Perfect. All right, guys. So now that we have that ready, we need to pay attention here because we're gonna be using this form inside our login. So inside this form, we are gonna set everything we need for the login, and for the register, we are going to just put it here because I copy all that I had here in the form, so I have it twice. Of course, you can try to optimize this, but the main idea is that we are gonna pass as props the out state and the user to every component, right? But we are not going to pass just the user for, well, yeah, we are going to pass the user for the home screen, but for everything else, we are going to need to set, or to be able to set the user and set the out state. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to pass as props my set user function and my set out state function to every component that I have here. And whenever we change the out state from the login screen, for example, or from the home screen or from the register, we are going to be able to check the out state here in the app, and we are going to render whatever we need depending on the out state, right? So I'm going to put here as props the function set out state like that, and I'm going to set equal to set out state, that is my function, and I'm going to pass as well my set user equal to set user. There we have it, guys. So now we are able to change the out state and the user from every component, right? Now we can go to our form component, and here we know that we are going to get the set user and the set out state as prop. I'm gonna go here and to this sign up button, and whenever I press this button, I'm going to change my out state. Instead of register, we want to take the user to the login screen, right? I'm gonna say on click. This is going to be an arrow function, and inside this function, I'm going to say set out state equal to, in this case, it's gonna be register because we are in the login already. We're going to take the user to the register screen. And if I hit save and I go here and press sign up, nothing is going to happen right now because we are using this form inside the login screen as a component. This is the register. Inside this register, we copy all the same thing that we had in our form. But in the login right here, we are using the form component. So I need to pass these two functions as well. So let's get them first here and then pass them as well. The same thing that we did here in our app. I'm just going to copy all this and paste it in this form. If I hit save now and go to my app and press sign up, we can see that we are taken to the register screen. And here we can just go ahead and start working in the register screen. We're gonna need to get the function set out state, set user as well, and we're gonna need two variables to keep track of the password and the email. We're gonna need our auth as well from Fire, that is our configuration file. We're going to need another method from Firebase Authentication. So I'm gonna say from Firebase Authentication. And this method is gonna be called create user with email and password. There we go. That's all we need to register a user. Now we can create our variables to storage our email and password. I'm gonna say const email and password. So we can say const email set email equal to react.useState. We are going to initialize this to null, and we are going to need another variable to set the password from the user. React.useState, like that. Perfect. Now we can create the function that is going to help us to create or register the user whenever we press the sign in button, right? And we want to change, of course, instead of sign in, we want to change it for register, for example. So I'm gonna go to this button and put it down here so we can have a better understanding of what's going on in this button. I'm gonna say register. Perfect. There we have it. I'm gonna move it to the right so we can see what's going on. Now I'm going to create this function that is going to help us to register the user. So I'm gonna say const on handle on sign up handle, like that. Whenever we press the button, we need to call or check before we do whatever we do. We're going to check if we actually have an email, and we're going to check if we actually have a password. So we can say if password and email are different than null, it means that we have something, right? So we want to check, we want to call our method, create user with email and password, like that. And this is gonna take our auth configuration. So we pass the auth as the first parameter. Then we pass the email and the password to create the user. After that, we can say then, and we are gonna get a response. We're gonna get the user, and for that, we're gonna need to set the out state and set the user. I'm gonna say set user, and I'm gonna set the user to the user.user.email. Again, you can choose whatever you want from the options from the data from the user. And I'm going to set my out state equal to home, because we know at this point we know that we have a user, so we want to take the user to the home screen. Finally, we can say catch. In the case that we have an error, I'm going to just put the error in the console, so we can say console log, or also we can say alert error. We can alert the user just to see what's going on. For example, in the case that the user don't provide an email or something like that, that way we can alert the user and the user can fix it. Now we need to add all this stuff in our components, in our inputs, and in our button. So for this input, I'm going to add the value for the email, and I'm going to add on change. On change, it's going to return us an event. This is going to be an arrow function, and we can set from that event the email. We're going to say set email equal to event dot target dot value. Like that. Now I can copy this and paste it in my password input. Like that. Now I'm going to change this email for password and change this function set email for set password. Now we need to add our function to our button. And I'm just going to copy my function and put it down here in this button. So we can say on click. And I'm going to copy my function that is on sign up handle and paste it inside this on click event. If I hit save now, we now can go to the register screen and actually register a user. So first of all, I'm gonna delete the user that I already have on my Firebase console. First, I'm gonna copy my email and delete this user. After we delete that user, we can create the same user with the same email. And I'm going to create a password and hit register. Perfect. As you can see, guys, we are taken to the home screen. In the home screen, we don't have any data from the user. So what we can do is pass as prop the user information. And I'm going to say here in the home component that I'm going to get the user as well as my set out state and my set user function, because we're going to need these functions whenever we want to change the information of the user. For example, when the user wants to log out, we're going to need to change the user and the out state. So now inside this div, I can put the user, for example, so you can see who is the user that is already logged in. If I hit save now, we are not going to see anything until we add the user as prop in our home component. So down here, before the set out state, I'm going to say user equal to user. And if I hit save now, we can see that the user is Beto at cwv.com. Perfect. So it means that it's working. And we can add to the home screen our logout button and our logout function. And that's pretty much all we want to have in the home screen. If I reload the app, we can see that we get the loading state, and then after this use effect is its trigger, we get the user and we get the out state. So that's why we get to the home screen. All right. So now we are going to need to import from Firebase out as well another method called sign out. As you can guess by now, it's going to be pretty similar as what we have been doing with the create user. I'm going to import my out configuration and my sign out function from Firebase. I'm going to create a function called sign out handler. And inside this function, I'm just going to call my sign out method from Firebase. I'm going to pass my out as a parameter. And that's pretty much all we need to sign out the user. We're going to get a response. And with that response, we are going to get the out state and the user, if everything goes well, right? So if everything goes well and we can log out the user, we're going to set the out state to the login, and we're going to set the user to null as well. Perfect. Lastly, In the case that we have an error, we are going to put .catch, and we are going to try to catch that error. I'm going to say error function, and for that error, we are just going to console log the error, like that. Console log error. Perfect. So that's our function to sign out the user. Now we need a button to add this function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my form and I'm going to copy my button, the one that I have here, the purple one. So I copy this button, I go back to my home screen, I'm going to paste it down here, like that. If I hit save now, before I do that, I'm going to put this button down here so we can have a better understanding of what's going on with this button. I'm going to change the name. Instead of sign in, it's going to be sign out. And for the on click event, there we have our button. I'm gonna say in my container, I'm gonna add a flex class and a flex call. That way we get this view. And I'm gonna say width of 40 for my button. Item center. If I hit save, there we have our button to sign out. And now I just need to add my on click event. So I'm gonna say on click, but I have to put it up here, on click. And I'm going to pass the name of my function, that is sign out handler. Paste it, and if I hit save now, if I hit sign out, as you can see, we are sign out. And if I reload the app, we still sign out because we don't have a user right now. Nice, guys. So it means that it's working. We can now register users and we can sign out users. If I press here, we get this alert saying that it's an invalid email. Okay, and if I reload, I'm taken to the sign-in screen. Now, if I go to my console on Firebase, and if I hit reload here, we can see that we have a user called Beto. That is the one that I just did. Perfect, guys. So now we need to add the login logic, right? Because we don't have anything to handle the login right now in the login screen. So I'm gonna go ahead here in my login screen, and I'm realizing now that I have a little bit of a problem because we are using the form component and we have the inputs inside this form component. So what I'm gonna do now, just to don't over engineer this little project, is that I'm going to first of all import as well from Firebase Auth my method that is sign in with email and password. Very similar to the one that we use for register the user and to sign out the user. So I'm gonna say sign in with email and password. And we are going to need our authentication, as you can guess by now, from our file Fire. That. Perfect. Now I need to go here, and we're gonna need variables to storage the email and password. So I can just go to my register screen and copy these two variables that I already have and paste it here like that. And I'm going to import all as React from React. Perfect. Now I'm just gonna go to my form, and instead of having to deal with this component and pass everything as props, I'm just gonna go ahead and copy all that I have inside this form. So I'm gonna copy all this div, and instead of rendering this component, I'm gonna paste all this stuff. Perfect. So now this should be working now. but we need to create our function to sign in, right? And we need to add the value for this input as we did in our register screen. I'm gonna go ahead and copy the value and the unchanged event, paste it here, and I'm gonna do the same for my password. Copy, go here in my password input and paste it. Perfect. Now guys, if I hit save, and of course I need to add my function to sign in, so it's gonna be pretty much the same thing that we already did with our register function. I'm gonna say const handle sign in, handle login. It's gonna be an arrow function, and inside this function we are gonna check again if the email is different than null and the password it's different than null, and password different than null. It means that we have something, right? So we can try to log in. We're gonna call our method sign in. We're going to pass the auth as a first parameter, and then the email, and then the password. Perfect. Now we're gonna say then, if this goes through, we want to set again the auth state and the user. We're gonna first set the user to the email that we already have here, and we're gonna set the auth state to be home because we want to get the user to the home screen. Finally, in the case that we have an error, we're gonna try to catch it, and we are going to put it in the console, or we can say alert error. Okay, alert error. Now we need to add this function to our button. So I'm gonna copy it and paste it here, up here in this button. I'm gonna say on click equal to handle login, right? Now I'm gonna try to log in with my email that I can remember. So I'm gonna go here and I'm going to copy it, copy and paste, and I'm gonna put my password. Password, hit sign in, and there we go, guys. It's working. We can sign in correctly, and we are redirect to our home screen. And if I reload, we can see that we are checking if we have a user. And in this case, we do have a user, so we are taken to the home screen. Perfect. And if I hit sign out, we are gonna go back to the register screen. I mean to the login screen. All right, we get this error because we don't have anything. Okay, and if I go to my sign up and try to sign in or register, we get the same error because we don't have anything in our inputs. And that's pretty much all I wanted to show you guys. I hope you learned something at this point. I know that this is fairly easy to use. Firebase is super easy to use nowadays, super easy to implement. The thing is that we just need to have a form to have the state of the user to present our application. There's many ways to do this, and the one that we did today, it's one of them. Of course, you can improve this application in a lot of ways, but basically the functionality that I wanted to show is how to manage the user state. And of course, it's good to know that you can access the information of the user with these events from Firebase Authentication. Okay, so I hope you liked the video, guys. If you learned something, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.